Hey everybody, Patrick Hostis here. So just gonna jump into it today. We're gonna pick up where we left off. Let me share my screen here where we left off with part one on this, going through the uh, report that has come out about, or the final Mandalay Bay October 1 shooting report that's been completed by the Las Vegas Police Department in conjunction with their partners in the FBI, and we've been going through it and read up to where we left off at was where they interviewed Danley, and so the next part we were going to pick up on was Peggy Paddock. I'm going to try to keep this one kind of short because I know it's Sunday and everybody's got other stuff to do, but I am going to try to get through the main points of this. There's a lot of other like technical data and stuff on here that everybody should look at it, with a fine tooth comb a lot more than we're going to be going over in this live stream here. So I think everybody should be doing that. So just wanted to throw that out there, but we're going to go over a couple points here. There are some points of interest I've already seen, but we'll go over that as we go. So let's go ahead and start where we left off at about Peggy Paddock. So this is an interview done with Peggy Paddock. Paddock's ex-wife Peggy was interviewed after the incident. Present during the interview were various agents with the FBI. The following is a summary of the information provided and learned during that interview. Peggy was married to Paddock for approximately 6 years. After their divorce, Peggy and Paddock continued to invest in real estate together. Most of their properties were located in the Los Angeles area. Paddock would handle most of the details pertaining to the purchase and sale of properties, with Peggy mainly assisting in financial support. Paddock spoke of growing up with a single mom and financial instability. During his marriage to Peggy, Paddock emphasized the need to be self-reliant and self-sustaining because of this. During high school and college, Paddock worked for the United States Postal Service. After graduating from college, he began working for the IRS. Paddock went on to work for Lockheed, the defense contractor auditing agency, and then McDonnell Douglas. Paddock was not interested in drawing attention to himself. He did not buy flashy clothes, jewelry, or cars. Irene Hudson. Irene Hudson is the mother of Stephen Paddock. The interview was conducted on October 2nd, 2017. So the day after, by special agents with the FBI. The following is a summary of the information provided and learned during the interview. Hudson is the biological mother of Paddock and was his former business partner. She stated the last time she spoke with Paddock was over the phone a couple of weeks before the attack. Paddock called to check on her and make sure she was prepared for Hurricane Irma. Hudson did not believe Paddock was affiliated with any religious or political groups. Paddock did not discuss either topic with Hudson. Hudson told agents Paddock was intelligent, good with numbers, and nonviolent. Hudson did not understand why Paddock committed such a horrible act. She believed Paddock must have developed some type of brain tumor which caused him to act the way he did. Hey, what's up, Ryan Baca? I see you on there. All right, Eric Paddock. Eric Paddock is the brother of Stephen Paddock. He was interviewed on several occasions after the incident. Present during the interviews were various investigators with the Las Vegas Police and the FBI. The following is a summary. Eric is the youngest of the 4 siblings born to Benjamin and Irene Paddock. Hudson being Irene's maiden name. Benjamin was arrested and went to prison for bank robbery when Eric and his brothers were young. Eric stated several times to investigators his dad was on the FBI's 10 most wanted list. Of the brothers, Eric only spoke to Paddock. Eric stated Patrick has mental issues and described Bruce as a sociopath. Eric stated Paddock had limited interaction with Benjamin after Benjamin's release from prison. Eric stated the last time he had contact with Paddock prior to the attack was approximately 2 weeks prior, and it was via text message. Eric said it was not uncommon for long periods of time to pass without contact between them. He continued to say that they would only speak when something was needed to be discussed. When asked about political or religious affiliations, Eric stated Paddock had none and was neither liberal nor conservative. Eric did not believe Paddock voted in the prior presidential election. Paddock was not a religious person and did not believe in any higher power and found religious people to be ridiculous. Paddock graduated from college with a degree in accounting and he worked for the IRS. Eric believed that Paddock worked for the IRS in order to learn how to hide income. Paddock later worked for an aerospace engineering company prior to becoming involved in real estate with family members. Eric, Paddock, and their mother, Irene, started a business together investing in real estate. They owned several properties together, including an apartment complex in California and Texas. Properties were sold for a substantial profit, which was split between them. After the sale of the business properties, Paddock moved to Nevada and began gambling. Most of Paddock's activities centered on gambling. Paddock had a mathematical mind and would only gamble when he believed the odds were in his favor. According to Eric, Paddock had won millions of dollars gambling and was well known in Las Vegas casinos. Paddock played mostly at the Wynn for the last few months. Because Paddock was so successful, casinos would give him long periods of compensation or free compensation, whatever. Eric believed Paddock may have conducted the attack because he had done everything in the world he wanted to do and was bored with everything. If so, Paddock would have planned the attack to kill a large number of people because he would want to be known as having the largest casualty count. Paddock always wanted to be the best and known to everyone. So that's an interesting theory from his brother there. Oh, I already put it up. Yeah, thought I did. Actually, is there a link? I thought I added the link to the. Sorry, having a discussion with my moderator here about if you guys are able to get to the document link. Hold on one second. Give me one moment. I want to make sure you guys have the link. So you guys can look at this document for yourself. I do have it in the comments section of this, but I don't even know if that's easily accessible when you're live streaming. Oops, sorry. It's like an intermission. Hold on. Oh, you're right. It's not on there. Good call, moderator. All right. Hold on one second. Bang. All right. So in the chat now, it should have a link to the report for everybody. My moderator was good enough to catch that for me. All right. So now, give me one second. And we'll go ahead and get back on board with the report here. All right. Now I have to find out where I was. And okay, about him saying he would believe he'd want to get the biggest kill count and be known as having the largest casualty count, etc., etc. Eric told investigators he and Paddock were smarter than the majority of other people. Eric told investigators he was in Las Vegas to help and show how dumb, this is a quote, how dumb you motherfuckers are, referring to law enforcement. Eric believed Paddock would have planned every part of the attack methodically. Paddock would have a need for everything found in the room. Despite appearing unkempt and in poor health, Paddock was very detail-oriented. Paddock would not have cared about the people he killed. It would not have mattered their race, religion, or sex. Paddock was described by Eric as a narcissist and only cared for people that could benefit him in some way. Eric stated Paddock needed to be seen as important and needed to be catered to. According to him, Paddock did not have anger issues and was passive-aggressive towards those who angered him. Eric was upset with Paddock until he learned Paddock had removed... Now, this is interesting. Now, this is an extremely good, interesting part of this report I think everybody should pay attention to. Eric was upset with Paddock when he learned Paddock had sorry, that's the key word here. Let me start over. Eric was upset with Paddock until he learned Paddock had removed the hard drives of the computers found in the hotel room. Eric was upset because Paddock completed the taxes for the family and had cheated on them. Basically. Eric was afraid the hard drives would implicate him and his mother for tax evasion. Upon learning of the hard drives were missing, Eric said several times, maybe he, meaning Paddock, did care for us. So, that's kind of an interesting take on why the hard drives were gone. There you go. What did he say about narcissist? Oh yeah, right here. He called the other guy narcissist. Okay. Just wanted to point that out. Um, Eric felt Paddock cared deeply for Danley and would do whatever possible to help take care of her. Eric expressed anger over the possibility of Danley having access to his monetary assets. Eric referred to Danley as a, quote, gold digger. Okay, that's interesting. There's Carrie Marie Paddock, the wife of Eric and sister-in-law of Stephen Paddock, was interviewed after the incident. Present during the interview were various FBI agents, blah, blah, blah. It's the usual crap they go through. He had not seen Paddock's, or Carrie had not seen Paddock since July 2016 when she and Eric visited Paddock and Danley in Vegas. Carrie had known Paddock for approximately 36 years, but she only had contact with him around 20 times. Eric and Paddock would talk occasionally on the phone. She knew Paddock worked in the IRS at one point in his life. Carrie Paddock and Eric bought property together. Properties. Iris Paddock bought. Sorry, I had a cat jump on me. Blew away my attention for a second. Property together in Texas. Paddock and Eric bought together properties in Texas and California. She also believed that Paddock owned other properties, but she did not have any further information. Carrie knew that Paddock gambled often and believed it helped him maintain his lifestyle. Paddock liked to talk about traveling and gambling. She never observed Paddock get angry or upset. Carrie knew Paddock was allergic to many things because of his allergies. Danley never wore lipstick or perfume. Carrie did not know if Paddock was ever diagnosed with any condition by a medical doctor. Bruce Paddock. Bruce Paddock, a brother of Stephen Paddock, was interviewed on several occasions with a bunch of people present and feds and, yeah, the usual. Bruce was staying at an inpatient medical facility awaiting back surgery on October 1st at approximately 0230 or 2:30 a.m. and 2 a.m. in the morning, basically. Bruce woke up in need of pain medication. Bruce watched the news on television and learned of his brothers of the shooting on Route 91 Harvest Music Festival. Bruce heard that his brother Paddock was the suspect in the shooting. Bruce called the FBI public access line to report his location in case investigators needed to talk to him. Did they actually answer that line, or no? I don't. I was curious. Anyway, Bruce had no contact with Paddock or his mother for many years. Bruce had not seen Paddock since the early 1990s, not spoken to him for more than 10 years. Bruce called his mother to advise her what was going on and learned that his mother was already aware. Despite the lack of contact with Paddock, Bruce believed Paddock was suffering from mental illness and was paranoid and delusional. He did not believe Paddock was a violent person and did not abuse drugs or alcohol. Bruce speculated that Paddock would have had to have been very pissed off to commit such a violent act. Bruce further stated Paddock would have planned everything well in advance. He stated Paddock knew exactly what he was doing when he selected the hotel, the room, the floor, and the concert venue below. According to Bruce, Paddock was successful and wealthy. Paddock worked for the IRS and the United States Postal Service. He stated Paddock owned several apartment buildings. And let's see here. Some of these don't have any information worthwhile. Like this one, there was really nothing in this. This was Patrick Paddock, a brother of Stephen Paddock, was interviewed. Patrick. coworker told him he has no knowledge of Paddock's activities or state of mind, no contact with him in the last two decades. He had no interest in Paddock or any other family members. He wasn't aware of him having any mental disorders or afflictions or affiliations with any religious groups. Paddock was aware that Paddock had a pilot's license to work for the IRS at one point. According to Patrick, Paddock did not display behaviors of violence or revenge and was not motivated by what benefited him personally. To his knowledge, Paddock did not abuse alcohol, illegal drugs, or prescription medications. David Paddock, who's a nephew of Stephen Paddock, trying to look through here and see if there's anything useful. According to David, his uncle kept... By the way, if you hear dogs barking, that's because I have basset hounds, and it's not much I can do about that. So, anyway, reading about the nephew here. David advised he had not spoken to his uncle since the beginning of June 2017. David was in Reno for a convention and met Paddock for dinner. David said Paddock seemed fine during the dinner and did not notice any abnormal behavior. According to David, his uncle kept to himself, and David described him as wealthy and aloof. Paddock liked to keep to himself but enjoyed eating at restaurants and taking cruises. David knew Paddock had a girlfriend but never met her. Paddock did not speak in an emotional manner. David stated his family was very direct and did not display much emotion. David never witnessed Paddock being rude or disrespectful to anybody. Paddock was not a religious person and was not affiliated with any or did not belong to any political groups. Who's this? Jacob Paddock was interviewed. He's the last saw his uncle in February of 2017. Jacob was living in Los Angeles, California, and moving back to Florida. His father, Eric Paddock, drove his RV to California to help Jacob move. When did he do this? Oh, back in February, they were living. Helped Jacob and Eric stopped in Las Vegas and had dinner with Paddock at the Hawaiian Las Vegas. Jacob stated Paddock had 2 rooms at the Hawaiian, but he and his father did not stay the night. Jacob believed Paddock received a degree in accounting or business and worked as an accountant at some point. Jacob also knew the majority of the family wealth was from real estate investments. Jacob told investigators the family was not very close and only met Paddock 6 or 7 times in his life. Paddock would occasionally speak to Eric on the phone, and the last time was during Hurricane Irma. Jacob described Paddock as eccentric. Paddock liked to keep to himself and did not want to be recognized. If he hit a large jackpot while gambling, Paddock would decline any photographs or recognition. Jacob said Paddock was a high roller at many casinos in Las Vegas. He said Paddock was careful with his money. Paddock would play machines on nights when his points would be doubled or tripled for complimentary rooms, shows, and meals. Paddock did not have any political or religious affiliations that Jacob was aware of. Jacob never observed Paddock upset or angry at anybody. Vivian Ayers, Paddock's first cousin, blah, blah, blah. Paddock did well in school, did not have behavioral issues. I'm looking down at the comments here. Brian Baca. He is the first person I've ever heard of that made a living gambling. The reason casinos comp high money gamblers is because they can't afford, as high money gamblers. Called a whale is losing his ass. Yeah, exactly. They don't comp people that are cleaning out the hotel. They try to get them out of there. And, Vegas, the whole system's rigged for you to lose. So I don't know. I don't buy that. This is the sole income this guy got. All right, back to Vivian here. Paddock was with his brothers, was told by his mother. Father died when he was young. He was in prison at the time. Ayers stated Paddock's mother was angry and bitter was this Paddock's mother was angry and bitter because she felt Paddock's father abandoned her and the boys. Hudson worked hard and was a private person. Um, Ayers felt Paddock had the same personality traits as his mother. Paddock never mentioned his personal problems to anybody. Paddock became interested in the subject. If he became interested in the subject, he would devote himself to it and then lose interest. Like he obtained a pilot's license when he was 17. When he was 17 years old, he enjoyed diving, traveling, and gambling. According to Ayers, Paddock began losing interest in traveling approximately a year ago. Yeah, when he was buying all the guns, I guess, huh? Paddock attended college and later worked for the IRS and Lockheed. Ayers stated Paddock did not like working for other people and began investing in real estate and family members. According to Ayers, there were no criminal with family members. According to Ayers, there was no criminal intent in Paddock's buying and selling of real estate. Ayers was also told that Paddock had made a significant amount of money in the stock market but was no longer involved in stocks. Besides becoming more irritable, Ayers did not notice any significant changes in Paddock's behavior. However, she was concerned for his health because he did not look well. Paddock did not take care of his teeth, and Ayers noticed that his teeth were either missing or rotten. Paddock told her that it was because he could not go to a dentist due to allergies. Okay, the primary care physician. Now, like we've heard this one 1,000 times by now. Basically, they subpoenaed him. He said that he thought that he was odd, had little emotion. He may be bipolar. Paddock didn't want to talk about it, didn't like prescriptions, took anti-anxiety meds, blah, blah, blah. He didn't think he was abusing any meds or anything. Yeah, because if he was, then that would make the doctor culpable for supplying him with narcotics. So, yeah, I'm not surprised. Now it goes into all the weapons he bought throughout his life, or at least since the 80s. I mean, he was a pretty regular gun buyer, quite honestly. I mean, he did buy a lot of the exact same type of rifles right at the last year of his life. That's certainly true. But it looked like to me he was always carrying, or he liked to have a pistol, and he was constantly upgrading. You know, and you get a plinker maybe to shoot, go target shooting with or whatever. He did get a car, or which is basically an AR-15 back in '91. So he got that. Wow, when was the assault rifle ban? So he got that right before, I guess. And then he took kind of a hiatus, and then he started buying again in 2000. And it looked like he was upgrading a bunch of different pistols, different things. But then, of course, he goes on the bender, the gun buying spree. By the way, as a side note, if any of you are gun connoisseurs, I got to hold a brand new Glock 19X, by the way. Very nice handling gun. If I only had more money, I would be getting one of those. Very nice if you're looking for a nice self-defense weapon, by the way. Anyway, just sidetrack. Back to this guy's gun buying period, or gun buying history here. So from 2008, in 2008, he buys this 357, and jump to 2015. He buys a 9mm. 2016, boom, then he starts going crazy on it. Here's a 12 gauge M4, just goes on from there. And these little asterisks, by the way, denote weapons that were found at the hotel. Coordinate our little graph here, spreadsheet, whatever. And he had a 5.7, and some of these are weird because it's supposed to be the date of purchase, and some of these they don't know about, so it makes me wonder what their status was. It says unknown. So a 5.7, by the way, that's a really high-end handgun with fires a round that's notorious for going through vests. So that's interesting. Sega, which is like an AK-47, typically, or it looks like an AK, but it fires shotgun shells. And then a Mossberg 12 gauge. And then it goes through all those search warrants. It's just boring, blah, blah, blah. The autopsy, this part of it is just a ginormous waste of time. Basically, it says he shot himself in the mouth. That's about it. You know, you can go through it, and they have like a lot more in the appendix, and you know, on in the back of the file here. I'm not going to go over that because it's just excruciating detail for me to say it and for you to comprehend it. It's better for people to look at that type of thing on their own. So please follow the links on the that I've got out there for you to look at those sections. Let me look at your comments here, and then I'll wrap it up with the conclusion. Okay. Brian Bacchus says also, why would he make a point to pay off all his debts prior to doing this? An act like that would be most likely be a suicide mission. All BS. He had no intention of dying that night, just a usual arms deal. Yeah, that's an interesting point there. That it didn't. Yeah, it makes you. It didn't look to me like he was planning on shooting himself. That's not how it looked to me. But it's just my opinion. Why would he be going to all this trouble? Like, okay, let's say the plan was, yeah, he was gonna, you know, off himself. Why did he off himself at that point? I mean, we've all seen the body cams at this point. We've all seen that the Las Vegas police and everybody else pretty much just hung out for 40 something minutes. Now, granted, I guess if we continued firing, we can argue about would they have stepped it up and charged up there, or I don't know. You know, we can what if that forever, but I'm just talking about facts here. Right at the moment when he offed himself, what was going on that said to him, oh, I got to end this? If I'm saying if the government's theory here is correct, which I'm definitely not saying I believe it is. Okay, so we'll kind of roughly go over the conclusions here. On October 1st, 2017, Stephen Paddock committed the largest mass casualty. You can see the figures here. 58 people were killed. 887 people sustained documented injuries. You know, let me go down to the main points. Here we go. This is the heart of this whole mess. Give me 1 second to mute this while I wet my whistle here. All right, much better now. All right, let's keep going here. So these are their final, you know, period on this entire mess. What they want to say. This is everything that they found in all this report that we've been waiting so long for. And this is what we got. Investigative findings. Paddock acted alone despite early reports of multiple shooters in different locations. No evidence exists to substantiate any of those reports. Thousands of hours of digital media were reviewed, and after all the interviews were conducted, no evidence exists to indicate Paddock conspired or acted in collusion with anyone else. This includes video surveillance, recovered DNA, and analysis of cellular phones and computers belonging to Paddock. Of course, what disputes that is the stuff that me and many other YouTubers have found out of the footage and put up there, like the one I just put up yesterday where an officer said he smelled gunpowder, you know, from an area that would be impossible for him to smell it if it was coming from only the Mandalay Bay. Little things like that, but they just dismiss that and say that there is nothing and that's it. We're supposed to believe it. Okay. Well, glad we got that. Brian Bacchus says here, honestly, Patrick, we all know this is BS. What do you think it's going to take to make the truth come out? The smoking gun, the evidence is overwhelming to the contrary. I mean, I don't know. I mean, you know, if you've been a fan of my channel for a long time, you know, I had a period where I was much more hopeful about the future, especially when Trump got elected. But after I've seen how things have gone and how truly corrupt, I mean, the government really is. I mean, at almost every single level, that they basically rig the system in their own favor all the time. I don't have much faith that legally this will ever be resolved correctly. I think they'll just close the investigation and say that was it. It'll be left to historians and people like that to have the record straight. And for, you know, just because they say the investigation's complete doesn't mean it's complete for us, and we can continue to build on it. And at least then we'll know the truth, and we can get the truth out there and maybe get some answers on our own. You know, it's like if you watch some of my videos right after when this thing happened, I said if the FBI and the Las Vegas police screw up with this investigation, it will become JFK 2.0, and that's exactly what has happened. And so I think that's where we're at this point. I mean, look at I mean, they're basically telling us we don't have any, there's nothing. Yet I'm a meaningless YouTuber and I can look at their body cams and find evidence that disputes that, or at least involves a lot, deserves a lot more of an explanation than what they've been giving us. But, you know, all they have to do is swipe their hands and say, nope, don't have to explain it. Report's over, case closed, end of story. So I think that the true victory will be with how we, how we teach this, how we tell the story, basically. And the way we're going to tell the story is the truth. And I guess that'll be our victory. All right, let's look at more of their findings. No suicide note or manifesto was found. Of all the evidence collected from room 32, 135, and 134, there was no note or manifesto stating Paddock's intentions. The only handwritten documentation found in either room was a small note indicating measurements and distances related to the use of rifles. That's also known as bullet dope. Just a little, FYI. 1 second here. Pause this. All right. There was no evidence of radicalization of ideology to support any theory that Paddock supported or followed any hate group or any domestic or foreign terrorist organization. Despite numerous interviews with Paddock's family, acquaintances, gambling contacts, investigators could not link Paddock to any specific ideology. Paddock committed no crimes leading up to October 1 mass shooting. All the weapons and ammunition he purchased were purchased legally. This includes all the purchases Paddock made at gun stores as well as online purchases. Paddock did not commit a crime until he fired the first round into the crowd at the Las Vegas Village. In reference to the 2,000 investigative leads, 22,000 hours of video, 252,000 images obtained with approximately 1,000 served legal processes. Nothing was found to indicate motive on the part of Paddock or that he acted with anyone else. Okay, because they say so, but none of us have seen all this footage or any of that. But who are we? Just the people. Security Officer Campos was not shot with a BB gun, but rather sustained a gunshot wound from one of the rounds fired by Paddock down the hallway. I thought they said that it was a bullet fragment. Now it's a bullet? A sustained a gunshot wound from one of the rounds. This report sucks. I'm just saying. Anyway, it's a little bit of a difference if you're hit directly with a round or you're hit with a fragment, or bullet splash. It's a little, I don't know. Just saying. Sloppy. Anywho, he had a pre-planned vacation to Mexico to go visit his father, and Security Officer Campos asked law enforcement permission to make the trip. It doesn't explain his weird Ellen trip, though, or, none of that, or why he canceled the appearance on Tucker Carlson and all that. All right, sorry, I'm looking down there, looking at your comments. Brian Bacchus shares my sentiments about the whole thing there. And Brian Bacchus says, what I don't understand is the silence of all the victims' families. If I had a loved one murdered that night, I would be camping out at Lion Joe's house. They'd have to kill me to shut me up. And then Marie D says, false, he did commit a crime prior, child porn on his computer. So she's, because they're saying that he wasn't a criminal until he fired a round in there. Marie's saying that no, he was a criminal beforehand because of child porn that they say they found on his devices that were in the hotel room. All right, where did I leave off at? No ideology, crew did no crimes, and all their great investigations and all that. Campos went to his trip. One aspect of the investigation focused on Paddock's financials. Although Paddock liquid wealth declined prior to 1 October, the investigation proved Paddock was self-funded through his gambling and past real estate transactions. He was indebted to no one and paid all his gambling debts off prior to the shooting. Although investigators were told early on in the investigation Paddock had a bank account frozen for high dollar transfers, it was determined this information was false for the 2 years preceding the incident. Okay. And as stated earlier in the report, where they were unable to discover what his motive, but they're saying that because he made reservations during Lollapalooza in Chicago, Paddock requested a room overlooking the venue, so they're trying to show that he obviously, oh, sorry about that. He obviously had intent of some kind to do one of these shootings. Paddock conducted several internet searches while planning his actions. Search terms included open-air concert venues, Las Vegas SWAT tactics, weapons, and explosives. Paddock also searched for various gun stores. Paddock purchased over 55 firearms, which were mostly rifles and various calibers from October 2016 to September 2017. He bought over 100 firearm-related items through various retailers during that period. During a stay in September 2017, Paddock requested specific rooms that overlooked the Las Vegas Village. According to Danley, Paddock spent time looking at Las Vegas Village venue from different angles and windows while inside the room. And that's it. That's basically what they're telling us. Bang. End of investigation. You peasants, take it. But I, for one, will continue my video research and audio research and looking into this. I don't know about all of you, but I think that's the way to keep going on this. I imagine many of you are going to agree. Oh, let me take a look here at some of your comments here. Marie's saying he went to Mexico to take care, meaning Jesus Campos went there to visit to get his visa, citizenship, etc., his paperwork done. Susan Jones, Campos was walking fine until he was on Ellen. Yeah, that's kind of an interesting point. Marie says finances, FBI only checked 2 years back, but back. Yeah, that's kind of interesting, isn't it? Marie D says false for the 2 years. What about before the 2 years? His ex-wife says it was a while ago. Susan Jones, oh wait, was that Campos on Ellen? Yeah, it was. That was him. He was the one that came on there and he had a cane or whatever. Brian Bacchus says, I'll be with you every step of the way, brother. Appreciate it, Brian. Let's keep this one going. And I like all these different appendixes here. I think all of you should go through. I'm going to go through it one day when I get the time. I know there's irregularities. You should look at some of the other ones like Mr. Burgundy and some of the other folks that are really into doing these videos. There's some weird stuff about the room doors being opened at the same time in 134 and 135 and all this type of stuff. I don't want to. This isn't me that caught it. It was other YouTubers out there, but you should really look into their work. I'm going to continue on with what I'm doing with the videos and going through the 911 calls. I might have to take a second job here, so we'll see how that goes. Might have to reduce some of my channel content, because obviously I have to be working more. But I'll try to keep it up as much as I can. So it's just a demonetization. They just demonetize everything that I do, so it's impossible to get any of the time you put into the stuff back, in monetary sense anyway. So I don't know, maybe I should do like a YouTube channel like cats and dogs or something and see if I can get that monetized. Maybe that can be my monetization. I don't know. Maybe I'll have a way for us libertarian types that have YouTube channels to be self-funded. We'll have to have our normal channel, then you're going to have a backup channel that's about cute puppies or something, and hopefully they won't demonetize that. I don't know. Just a thought. Anyway, so I'm going to continue on with doing that. Please look on a few of the videos that I've just uploaded. There was a very interesting one done that I just uploaded about a shooting that occurred at a peace rally in Florida, I believe it was, and somebody with a concealed weapons permit was able to intervene and stop the offender. So nobody was injured except for the active shooter. There was a bunch of small children there too, because it was actually a back to school type of event, I guess. So it was a very bad thing. But somebody was able, intervene. A legal gun owner intervened and put a bullet right in this bad guy's head and ended the threat before anybody was harmed. Any innocent person was harmed. So, just please check that video out, and please check out the one that I put up yesterday about the officer saying that, showing the body cam footage of the officer saying that he smells gunpowder in the area where he's at. It would be pretty difficult for him to have been smelling it from the way up from the hotel rooms on the 32nd floor from his location, which is gives more credence and more evidence to the theory that there's other shooters out there. And I firmly believe there's another shooter out there. I don't know, the jury's out for me about how many people were in 134, 135. I really believe there was somebody else there too, but I have to kind of go where the evidence is pointing right now. And that's kind of not my area of expertise at this moment. I'm really looking into the body cam footage right now. So I'm going to keep up on that, and I'll keep, sending out on Twitter and everything, all the other videos that I see all the great YouTubers doing, like Mr. Burgundy and so many others. I really appreciate all your help and all your tips and everything. And I appreciate it if you're able to share some of my stuff and get our message out there, and let's just get this information out there. We have to fight through an awful lot of censorship to get this information out there, and I really need the help of all you to do it. Otherwise, it's just not really, it's not going to work. We won't be able to red pill enough people. So let's keep at it. Let's keep doing it. All right. I'm looking at your comments one last time here. Jungle Jargon says, if the report is true, it was just another liberal mass shooter that hated conservatives. Well, it's possible, I guess, but I'm telling you, there's more than one shooter out there. You can hear it in the audio, and I can hear it. You can hear witnesses reporting it. You can hear it all over the place. There's an awful lot of evidence out there. So we'll keep it up, and keep watching on my channel for more broadcasts and more evidence to come. And we're going to wrap it up. All right. This has been Patrick Hostis. Good night, and God bless.